What's up, everybody? How are you? Welcome into the final regular season edition of our college basketball live stream here on the BettingPros YouTube channel. He is Terrell, Furman, I'm Matt Perrault. This program will move to the weekend. Coming up on Saturday, we'll have more information as we'll do this coming up in the month of March as we get to the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament very, very soon as we get conference tournaments underway for the little guys this week, the big boys next week, and then we get to Selection Sunday. Terrell, it's an interesting slate today because a lot of the smaller conferences have already wrapped up their regular season, but there's some big boys on the card today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? I'm looking forward. March is here. Expect the unexpected. Things. I think that's the best way to sum it up. Expect the unexpected. Even in the conference tournaments, there's always bid stealers out there. You gotta be wary.
Do you subscribe to the idea that there is parity in college basketball if we wind up with, and this is real, 24 teams from the Big Ten and the SEC of the 68, 24 of them, and if you count in the Big 12, it would be 32 teams, half the field basically from three conferences. Is that parity in your mind?
Not really. I think the best teams deserve to be in, and I think that depends on, if that's one conference this year, then that's one conference. But a lot of the teams in the SEC did actually have some pretty good non-conference before this, and then they played an SEC gauntlet. So, I kind of feel why you want to put some of those teams in now. At some point, we get ridiculous with some of the teams. Like at this point, when you have these big conferences, that is your fault. Like somebody has to be bad, like Oklahoma. Somebody has to be bad in that SEC. Like you're not going to have the opportunity that a lot of other teams are going to have to be able to have a weaker conference record and be able to still get in because you're the bottom of the barrel of the SEC. So I think that some teams got to reevaluate and say, hey, we're probably never going to make it if the field is this large between this. Other teams are saying, all right, we got to figure out how to just rise to the cream of the crop of this conference.
So according to bracketology on ESPN this morning, Oklahoma and Texas are both in the first four out. They both, in my opinion, do not belong in the field unless they pull off some pretty big things. But I'm surprised that Nebraska is in and Ohio State is in. We'll talk about those teams here in a couple of minutes because those Ohio State playing tonight is going to be really an interesting matchup because they're playing Nebraska. So we'll get to that coming up here later on. But let's start with BYU and Iowa State. Big 12 brawl. This is a 9 p.m. Eastern time, late night start, but it's arguably the game of the night in college basketball. This number is 8.5 or 9 for the Cyclones, who are 9-7 ATS at home this year, 12-7 in the Big 12 ATS. BYU is 12-6 ATS. They've covered 6 consecutive games, and they are 7-6 on the road ATS wise. 8-2 over the last 10 for BYU. Terrell, I can't bring myself to lay the points. Can you with Iowa State tonight?
Yeah, I am. I'm going ahead and laying it with Iowa State. I think this is a good spot for them. I understand BYU is playing some of their best basketball all year right now, but I think it's different when you're going and you're playing at Iowa State. I think that this home court advantage that they have, these fans, it's a lot. And so I think that's going to throw off the BYU offense a little bit in this game that not Illinois, but that Iowa State defense really going to come alive here, really, really smothering and just not allowing BYU to score. And I think Iowa State's going to be able to do enough. Like I think Iowa State's going to be fine on their side of the ball. It's, hey, can BYU offense keep up? I think they'll have their moments, they'll have their runs, but overall, the whole portion of the game, no, I think it's a pretty solid, decent win for Iowa State here as they try to continue to build on the resume. So yeah, I like Iowa State to sit here at home, defend home court, have a really good game here, get it done by 10+.
Scares me. I'm not betting this game. If I was going to bet it, I would go on the other side of you. I would take the points with BYU. Ken Palm has it as a 7-point win, but I get your logic. The Iowa State defense is tremendous. I'm sitting on a 20-1 ticket on Iowa State to win it all. I'm really high on TJ Otzelberger's team. I'm high on games. Even though it's a Tuesday, I would love this to have been a Saturday night because Ames would have been just even more crazy. And Hilton Magic really comes out for, weekend night games and the college kids can be drinking all day. But it's a Tuesday in Iowa and there's not much going on in the state. And, BYU will end their year at home against Utah, their arch rival, coming up this Saturday. So Kansas State on the road. This is senior night for Iowa State. So whenever we're talking about senior days, there aren't a ton of seniors in college basketball these days because of all the transfers. And even if they are a senior or a super senior, they haven't spent a ton of time on college campuses. So we've sort of downplayed that. I don't know if you've taken it into account for your handicapping, but I've kind of thrown out the window. I used to really put it in a lot when you had a 3 or 4 year senior who's been in that environment and in that community that the game means even more. I've kind of thrown it out because we aren't seeing seniors staying or even being a part of college basketball much anymore. So that's where I've taken that out of my handicap. But Iowa State's a beast. I love them in March. I can't wait to see what they're going to do in the Big 12 tournament. They go down to Kansas City. They are always one of the top 3 most attended fan bases to go down to the conference tournament. KU fans aren't going to show up all that heavily. So I think a lot of those tickets are going to be available for Cyclone fans to purchase for that tournament here next week. But big game tonight in Ames, senior night here with a pretty big number of 8.5 or 9. You may even get I would recommend waiting to even get a better number in game. Like you might be able to get like a 4 or 5 come in game. And if BYU hits their threes, to me, that's the whole game because BYU is a dynamic 3-point shooting team. They're in the top, they're 26th in the country in 3-point shooting. Iowa State's defense is 131st. They protect the rim. That's really what Iowa State looks to do. Defensively, they're in the top 50 for 2-point defense, but outside the top 130 in 3-point defense. On the other side, Iowa State's offense, highly efficient, 21st in effective field goal, in offensive efficiency, 57th in effective field goal percentage. Not great from behind the arc, but good enough, 93rd, and then 51st in 2-point defense. We'll see who gets the tempo where they want it. Iowa State's 101st in adjusted tempo, 200th for BYU. They look to slow it down big time here tonight for BYU. Second game is the number 1 team in the country and arguably the best team in the country, Auburn and Texas A&M. I know you like this game a lot here. Aggies are at home. Auburn is 10-5 ATS away from home this year, which is unbelievable. A&M has lost 4 straight games, but they're 9-5-1 ATS at home. You like the Aggies, correct?
Yeah, I think this is a good spot for them where it's put everything out here on the line. You got number 1 coming to town. You got coach with pedigree and Buzz Williams, especially as a dog. I think that they're going to come in here, be really, really physical with this Auburn team. Auburn's locked it up. And Auburn is not playing for anything anymore. And so I think this is a good spot for Texas A&M to catch them a little bit reeling because Auburn's, 94-78, 106-76. Like they are winning these games and winning these games by a margin. Doesn't matter whether they're at home or on the road. So I think this is just a nice little letdown spot, getting some reverse line movement coming in as well with a lot of people, the public, hammering down on Auburn. Sharps coming in with me on Texas A&M a little bit. I like the Texas A&M side. I like plus the points here. I think they get up for number 1 coming to town.
Yeah, I think you're right on this. I would, if Auburn didn't have it already wrapped up, I probably would have bet Auburn here because I think A&M's not good. And I think both Texas and Texas A&M are both incredibly overrated. I don't think Texas belongs in the dance. Texas A&M belongs in the dance, but they're not going to stick around very long. Their offense is so streaky. Defensively, it's a typical Buzz Williams team. They can get in your shorts. They can really make your life a living hell defensively, but they are not good enough offensively. They are way too streaky for me. They've lost 4 consecutive games outright. So we're talking about a team with their backs against the wall. They're going to make the dance, but they play LSU for the last game of the year on the road. So this is senior night as well for Texas A&M. Number 1 team in the country comes calling, even though it's a Tuesday. You're going to expect a lot of intensity in College Station. You're going to attend a lot of Aggie fans freaking out. I mean, I've called A&M a cult for a long time as a freaky, weird place to go watch sports. It's a weird fan base. It's a weird place to be. I mean, football more than basketball per se, but the Yell Eaters still show up at basketball too. It's equally odd. If I had to bet it, I would be on the other side of you. But because Auburn's wrapped it up, I'll give it to you. I think that this is a good chance for A&M to win the game outright because they need it a hell of a lot more than Auburn needs it. But if Auburn's going to get the number 1 overall seed, these are the types of games they need to go ahead and have on their resume because they're going to play Alabama next, and that's the last game of the season for them. That's a monster game. That's a home game for them to get Alabama. If they end the year by beating both Texas A&M on the road and Alabama at home, it already might be wrapped up, but Duke has been killing people, like just killing people. So if I was going to give a 1 seed overall right now, I think it's hard not to give it to Duke, and Duke beat Auburn head to head. So
wow.
So
really?
that comes into play. So because Auburn went to Duke and lost to Duke, that's my one concern with this game, why I'm staying off of it, because I think Auburn might be trying to send a message that we're going to be the number 1 seed overall, because I'm going to be in Nashville and Kentucky for the SEC tournament. And I'm telling you, that tournament is going to be so tough to win. If I'm Auburn, I don't want to win the SEC tournament. I would rather be bounced early and then go win the national championship, because they're going to get a double bye. But all 3 games they're going to play will be against ranked teams, and very possibly top 15 ranked teams for Auburn to win the SEC championship. So they would rather have the 1 seed wrapped up before they get to Nashville for the SEC tournament. But this is an absolute watch game for me, and maybe a jump in spot at some point if the number gets to be a place where I like it. If we got to pick them, or heck, if A&M's favored at any point in time and you get plus points with Auburn, maybe a chance to jump in with them. Indiana and Oregon. This is a weird game because Dana Altman's team in Eugene,
horrible.
They're 5-10
horrible
against the number. I mean, I've never seen this. I've been covering Dana Altman since 2004. I've known Coach for 21 years. I have not talked to him, but I would love to find out, be like, Coach, what the heck is going on with your team at home this year? And in the Big Ten, Oregon is 6-11-1, but they're in the dance. Bracketology's got them in. Indiana coming calling. What do you make of this game tonight? Because I'm scared to touch this one. I don't know if I can lay points. 6.5 points. Can you lay that with the Ducks?
I mean, I really, really want to. And if you told me they were on the road, I probably would have did it. I mean, but it's been bad at home. Home cooking's not been good. Indiana's also stayed out on the West Coast. They played Washington before this. They stayed on that side of the coast in preparation for this Oregon game. So you're not getting the travel. They've been over there. Maybe, yes, it is still a back-to-back road spot. So tough spot. Like everything kind of points to me liking Oregon. I think Oregon is the better team. I like Dana Altman as a coach. I think he has this program playing right, except at home. And it's just very, very concerning. And it's not like they're not winning the game at home. It's that they're not covering the numbers. So I think this is the game that I'm looking at for a live number. And if Indiana gets out early, especially staying on the West Coast, and they start playing really well early, and maybe I get closer to a pick 'em with Oregon, then I would be looking to get it on the Oregon side. But I don't know, man. That it's too many times that they've not been able to cover the margin at home and just let teams hang around.
11 Big 10 teams are in the dance, according to Joe Lenardi for his bracketology this morning. 5 seed for Oregon, even with their up and down nature of this season. They are a 5 seed. Indiana out on the outside looking in, most likely replacing Mike Woodson at the end of the year. It's a big job with a lot of big alumni, but alumni that want to come in, but we'll see how that game plays out here tonight. If I had to bet it, I would bet it with Oregon, but yikes, that's a scary situation. I mentioned Texas at Mississippi State. This is one of my plays here for today. This is a number of 7. I know it's a little heavy. I don't care. Texas is awful. They may be the worst team playing basketball, not record-wise, but they may be the worst team playing-wise in the SEC currently. They can't beat anybody. They haven't covered for 7 straight games. Over their last 10, they are 2-7-1. They're 5-7 on the road. They've lost to Georgia by 16. At one point, they were down by 30 at home. Last time out against Georgia, I was all over Georgia in that game. Arkansas, they lost by 5. South Carolina, that was their first win in the SEC by 15. They beat Kentucky somehow, some way by 4 because, well, Kentucky's so inconsistent. Lost by 23 to Alabama, lost by 8 to Vanderbilt, and lost by 8 to Arkansas. LSU win by 12 after the Bama loss, which was pretty embarrassing for Mississippi State on the road. They lost by 38 points, lost their last 2 road games, but at home, they beat A&M by 16. LSU by 12. They beat Georgia by 1 as home point. They're a 1 point home dog, 1.5 point home dog for Mississippi State. I think they protect the home court tonight. They need this. I'm going to lay the 7 points to row with Mississippi State and the Bulldogs here against Texas. How do you feel about this game?
I couldn't get to the window on this one because Mississippi State looked horrible that last game against LSU. And despite covering the number at 11.5, somehow LSU allowed them to be able to cover that at the end of the game. For 90% of that game, that 11.5 didn't look anywhere close for Mississippi State. And they really, really struggled with that LSU team, who I think is one of the worst teams in basketball. So I could see Mississippi State playing down the competition. That's the only reason why I stayed away from this one. They just need a win. They don't need it by margin. So I can't trust Mississippi State. But I agree. Texas is very, very hard to watch right now.
7-point win according to KenPom for Mississippi State here at home, and I mean they got a game against Arkansas coming up on the road. This would be their quote unquote senior night if they had a bunch of seniors, which they don't. But if they did, it would be their senior night here with Texas. They come off the win over LSU, 8-8 on the year so far in the SEC currently. For Mississippi State, they still have a chance to climb up the rankings at 8-8. Kentucky is 8-8. Ole Miss is 9-7. Texas A&M is 9-7. They play tonight, like we mentioned. So if A&M were to get upset here tonight and they win, they'd be 9-8, and they'd be looking at a 5 or a 6 seed come the SEC tournament. So still a chance for Mississippi State to get a decent seed here with their 20-9 record overall, 8-8 in the SEC currently. All right, the next game. I don't know how you bet this, but I guarantee you, if you're in the Big Ten, you are watching this. According to bracketology, Nebraska and Ohio State are both among the last 4 teams to be put into the bracket. Nebraska is going to get sent to Dayton, and Ohio State will also be sent to Dayton as of right now. They play each other tonight in what could be a bid eliminator game between these two, and Nebraska's going to go on the road. They've been better on the road than at home. They're 9-5 ATS on the road, but Ohio State is 10-6 ATS at home. Both these teams are 8-10 in conference. I got to admit, Terrell, 6.5. This seems heavy for Ohio State. I was surprised it's this big of a number given what Nebraska's done this year on the road.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm willing to 2 possessions. I think I'm willing to take the points here with Nebraska. I think it's a little bit closer of a game, a little bit more of a competitive game. I really don't trust either one of these 2 teams, and I think that both of these 2, like, honestly, the best thing that could happen is if you have some bid stealers in some lower conferences and kind of push these 2 teams out. I'd rather see a couple of mid-majors rather than these 2. I'm not really a fan of either one. I'll take the points.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting situation for me just to watch this game and go, all right, too many points. I mean, I think Nebraska, I mean, if I'm not a bracketologist, but if I was, Huskers don't belong in the dance, but I'm not sure Ohio State does either. So, like, I think both of these teams, when I saw 11 teams from the Big Ten get in, I was like, what are we doing?
Like, if VCU stumbles in the A-10 tournament, you're telling me one of these 2 teams deserves to be in over VCU? No way.
Yeah, or Drake, for that matter. If Drake stumbles in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, it's the same conversation. You think that Ohio State or Nebraska belongs over VCU or Drake? No, they do not. But that's the nature of this bracket, nature of this tournament, unfortunately, is its brand names can get you in and brand name conferences can get you in for sure.
Everybody like Frosted Flakes. Nobody like cornflakes. Cornflakes and sugar don't do it for you.
The game that fell off my card last was this one. Arkansas against Vanderbilt. Arkansas is 4-9 ATS this year on the road. Arkansas is coming off of a 19-point loss to South Carolina, and they were never in that game. Keep it up. Vanderbilt is coming off of a win over Missouri at home. They haven't played in 4 days. They beat Missouri at home. They beat Ole Miss at home. They beat Tennessee. They lost to Auburn at home, but they beat Texas at home. They beat Kentucky at home. They beat Tennessee at home. They beat South Carolina at home. Vandy on the road is a totally different team than Vandy at home. Vandy's 11-5 ATS at home. They've covered 3 straight games overall. Both these teams are 8-8. Vandy needs it. Arkansas is desperate for it. Can you lay 7.5? The number's too darn big to bet this pre-flop, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the fact that if you look at Vandy and SEC play, they have only beaten 2 teams by more than 7 points, and that was an 8-point win to Texas, that who we just talked about, and you said is one of
Yeah.
your worst teams in the
Garbage.
all of college basketball. And then they have an 8-point win against guess who? LSU, who we just talked about, and I said is one of my worst teams in college basketball. So I mean, there's a bunch of parity here. They play close games. That's all you have to know. Vandy plays close games. If you think Vandy wins this game, they're probably going to play a close one. And if you're sitting there wondering, oh, well, Vandy's laying points here, they're so much better. They were also laying 9 against South Carolina, and that was a 3-point game. Vandy plays close games. They've already rushed the court like 3-4 different times this season. I think that they're tired of it. And if it was what's my boy that played at Duke, Filipowski, he would be livid. He would be livid having to play at Vandy this season. So yeah, no, I'm all over Arkansas. I think they're desperate. I think they need this one. I think that they're live on the money line as well. Vandy playing close games gives me a parity where Arkansas can win this game outright if the ball bounces their way. So yeah, I think Arkansas is going to come in here hungry, understanding that they're one of the last 4 teams in and they need a marquee win. And now Vandy has presented themselves as a marquee win because they continue to win games. Yeah, I'm good. I like Arkansas keeping this game close with potential to win it outright.
Vandy is a 3-point winner in this game, according to KenPom. 77-74. Number is 7.5. I don't get it personally. I think it's way too heavy. I think you're right. If I was going to bet it, I'd be on your side. I would take Arkansas, or I'd.
Whoa, we lost him to the Ethosphere.
Oh, good. Back.
And you're back.
Sorry. I'm with you. I would take the points with Vanderbilt. I wouldn't. I would not lay 7.5 with Vandy. I would take the points with Arkansas at plus 7.5. As I said, KenPom's got it as a 3-point win for Vandy. Arkansas is 100% desperate on this after their embarrassing loss. That's a quad 4 loss to South Carolina. That's a horrific loss for their resume, trying to get themselves in. According to KenPom bracketology, Arkansas would play Ohio State. Arkansas would be in as an 11 seed, but they'd be sent to Dayton. So they are one of the last 4 in as well. They need this desperately. Vanderbilt is a where does bracketology have Vandy here for?
I think they're a 9 seed.
They're a 9 seed. Yep, 9 seed against UConn in Raleigh. 9 seed for them. Okay, so they're not firmly in, but they're in. They're in more than Arkansas is on this. So Arkansas needs the game a lot more. My second play is West Virginia and Utah. And I'm going to do something that I'm so ice cold, and I have lost games on hooks consistently. So I laid 3.5 with Tennessee.
Oh, yes, man. Dude, what?
They won by 3. Okay, I didn't buy it. I was a moron. I didn't buy it. Should have bought it down. Last night, I took the 3.5 with Northwestern. Should have bought it to 4.
They lost.
UCLA won by 4. The flagrant foul at the end. So I've been burned in 2 consecutive games and 2 consecutive bets. I've been burned by the hook.
Oh, this is going to be the one that it doesn't matter. You're going to win by flying colors, but you're going to pay it anyway.
I'm betting it anyway. I'm buying it anyway. Give me the hook. I'm buying it to 3 from 3.5 down, fading West Virginia in the same way that I don't think Texas has their stuff together at the moment. West Virginia is just in a whole mess load of trouble at the moment. They're coming off of a really bad loss to BYU, 77-56. They stayed out west, playing this gauntlet, this BYU, playing in Provo, and then going to Salt Lake to play Utah is really hard. The number, according to KenPom, is a 2-point win for Utah. I'm going to lay the 3 because I just don't trust West Virginia here. I know Utah has not been the greatest of teams, and they've had some of their own struggles as well, but they're 12-6 ATS at home this year. West Virginia is 7-6 overall on the road, but my gosh, it's been an ugly couple of weeks for them. 21-point loss on the road to BYU, 22-point loss on the road to Texas Tech, 3-point loss to Baylor on the road. They lost to TCU by 5, catching 1.5. They lost to Kansas State by 13. I mean, this team has not beaten anybody on the road. Well, they beat Cincinnati on the 2nd of February. That's their only win on the road here in 2025 so far. I'm going to lay the 3 points with Utah. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I like it. I'm not mad at it. West Virginia has been a team that's been a thorn in my side over the course of the entire season, and it really started when the coach's son went down, and
Yeah.
they kind of buckled down and played some get up games after that. They got Kansas, but after that, it's been tough sledding, and that's what happens again. All these teams in one conference, somebody's got to be bad, and somebody's got to fall off here, and it looks like it's been West Virginia is one of those teams. So yeah, I like it, and I'm probably gonna bet this now because I'm telling you, this is gonna be game. Utah like 10. You're gonna be like, I didn't even need to pay for that at all.
It's
Like I would have
fine.
hit every number.
Peace of mind. Just give me 3. Laid the 3. I laid 125 with it. Bought the half a point, and I laid with Utah minus 3. If you guys want a bonus play, I'll give you one extra one, and then we'll get to Terrell's other play on the night. Georgia's at South Carolina tonight. I know you've been higher on South Carolina later than other people, but this number of 138.5, bet the over. It's Georgia -1, and I know the numbers are crazy. Georgia is 10-2 to the under this year on the road, and South Carolina is 9-8 to the under at home. But Georgia, 4 in a row, and 6 of 7 have gone over for Georgia. They have all of a sudden figured out how to play offense in Mike White's system later in the year. And for South Carolina, the last game at home against Arkansas went under by 15 points, but that snapped a streak in which 5 consecutive games and 6 of 7 for their games also went over. 138.5. You want to see some offense in Columbia tonight? I bet the over 138.5 for Georgia and South Carolina tonight. What was your second play, Terrell? I can't remember.
That was Iowa State. I had Iowa
Okay.
State and Texas A&M. Yeah.
Okay. So
A little
what's-
bonus play I dropped
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah. If people didn't catch on, I'm really on to that Arkansas play. I'm rolling with the Arkansas Razorbacks here today. So
plus the points or money line?
yeah, plus the points. I got plus the points. I do have a sprinkle on the money line as well. I like them. I think that they have a chance to get a very, very quality win here and play a team that plays close games for the entirety of conference play. Almost all of their games in conference play have been close games. So I think we see another close one here with the Razorbacks.
Last game to break down because people have been telling me about North Carolina. I can't believe that the Tar Heels are favored by 8 points on the road at Va Tech. They have Duke coming up this weekend. Massive rivalry game, and Carolina is starting to turn the corner. They've won 5 games in a row. They've covered 4 games in a row. But Va Tech has covered 3 games in a row in their own right, and this is their 3rd consecutive home game for Virginia Tech. They beat Syracuse and covered. They lost to Louisville by 5, but covered, and they won by 13 at Miami. Can you lay 8 points with North Carolina on the road tonight?
Have you ever seen a school try to hide their extension of their coach?
More.
And have you ever heard of that? Like trying to hide a coach getting extended? Because they tried to hide that at Virginia Tech.
Well, because Hubert Davis is like the least most popular person in the state of
No.
North Carolina.
It's not even Hubert Davis. It's Virginia Tech's coach.
Oh, Va Tech. Well, yes. Carolina hired theirs.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they did the same thing too. They tried to hide it too. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is ridiculous here. I mean, both of these two programs are setting their programs back about 10 years here. But I mean, there's nothing that Virginia Tech has going for them. Like nothing. And what a down year for the ACC. Virginia Tech is really, really disappointing here. And as much as I would like to say you can't lay these points with North Carolina, just go ahead and take Virginia Tech. I've seen enough Virginia Tech basketball games to know that there's no reason to bet them ever. So if I had to go one way, I'm going North Carolina, and I'm just going to ride the hot hand.
8-point win according to KenPom. The number is 8. I that couldn't get me to the window. I wasn't there. I wasn't capable of doing it. All right, fast break bets, Terrell. If folks are going to watch you coming up tomorrow, what are they going to see?
Oh, well, they're going to see me talking about this guy, Kevin Durant, after you get us another winner right here. So you're definitely going to see that. You're going to see me talking hoops, all kinds, especially here in March. We're about to really get down to the thick of things in March Madness, about to have a bunch of futures in these conference tournaments. So I'm looking forward to it.
You guys can watch, and what Terrell's referencing with Kevin Durant, it is the Daily Juice podcast. It's the show that I do every single day, 365 days a year. We have been ridiculous in NBA player props. We don't normally dabble in NBA player props, but the prop bet cheat sheet's been absolutely on fire. It's been, and I'll go over some of the numbers tonight. The folks at BettingPros have polled just overall how the 5-star plays have been doing. on the prop bet cheat sheet. It's really crazy. A 2.67% ROI over the last 150 bets. It's been a highly profitable thing to start trailing these plays. But Kevin Durant's our play of the day. We have hit 12 consecutive Daily Juice play of the days. Did we get to 13? It's Kevin Durant over his points and rebounds tonight. 28.5 is I bet 29.5, but it dropped down to 28.5. So you get even a better number with the line. But we've had success when the line movement goes against me. We've actually been cashing that consistently when the pros are on the other side. So let's see what happens. But every single morning, wherever you guys get your podcast, audio or video, on the Betting Pros YouTube channel, or audio, wherever you get your audio podcasts, for the Daily Juice. All right, let's get to our plays. Terrell, throw that Seth on the screen. Who are you taking tonight, Terrell?
All right. Aggies. You know I'm an Aggie. Not Texas A&M Aggie, North Carolina A&T Aggie, but it's all the same. Give me the Aggies plus 4.5 here at home, and then we're going to take Iowa State to handle business, get it done, laying 8.5 there, and then a nice little extra play that I gave out on socials. I do with the Arkansas Razorbacks. I am rolling with the dogs here today.
I'm going to buy the 0.5 point with Utah at home against West Virginia. Utah -3 at -125. If you want to bet that at DraftKings has that at -137. If you want to lay 2.5 and not 3, and so they win by 3, you would win that bet. But that's getting a little bit on the heavier side juice wise. I don't really want to go down that road. So I'm taking Utah -3, -125, and then I'm fading Texas. I'm fading West Virginia. Mississippi State at home. We're laying 7 points with Mississippi State here up against Texas, because I don't think Texas has anything to play for. I think that they are DOA, and Mississippi State needs this game here tonight. They've been very good at home. We're taking the Bulldogs at home, laying 7. The bonus play is Georgia and South Carolina over 138.5. If you want to talk about total perspective, you can jump into with some offense. Both those teams, even though they're good defensively, have been scoring a lot more and going way more up tempo of late in the SEC. So over 138 for Georgia and South Carolina, if you guys would like it. Reminder that this show is shifting to a Saturday 11 a.m. in the morning, Saturday morning podcast live stream here on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. We're going to do that throughout the entire, I don't know if we're doing it, not doing it this Saturday, but it'll be
22nd.
The following Saturday. That we'll be doing that during the NCAA tournament. And so we'll roll with you guys through the NCAA tournament and get into all the good picks and plays for conference tournament, NCAA tournaments, and obviously the road to San Antonio. We'll be doing that with you guys on Saturdays. And then I think we shift to Sundays later in the tournament. We'll shift to a Sunday live stream for us. He is Terrell Furman. I'm Matt Perrault. Fast break bets tonight, the Daily Juice podcast. Check them both out tonight on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. And we'll talk to you soon for another college basketball live stream.